Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your patience. On behalf of Muntada, the Iraqi Australian University Graduate Forum, we welcome you all. As you know, we have some people here cannot understand English, other people the other way around. So we will alternate between the two languages. Tonight we have a couple of events which we combined together, and they both are related to our youth. The first part of it is going to be the Forum on Youth Against Violence and Extremism, and we will have a panel of young people who's going to talk about this issue, which is, I believe, is important for all of us here tonight. The second one will be celebrating a bunch of students who finished their HSC last year, 2014. 10 of them here tonight with us, boys and girls, did all the hard work and achieved high marks in their ITAR. Their ITAR ranged from 90 to nearly 100. So that's going to be the conclusion of the night. Anyway, I welcome you all, as I said, and I will present now Dr. Ahmed Rubai, the president of Muntada, to have a word with you. Dr. Ahmed.
Welcome all. فضيلة الرئيس أما الشيخ صلاح البحيري، الأستاذ أندرو روهان عضو البرلمان عن منطقة سميثفيلد، الرابي زلمان كاستل from the Together for Humanity Interfaith Education organization, السيدة ثيدا يونغ, the Community Relation Advisor from the CRC, Youth Case Managers, both Senior Constable Danny Kidd and Chris Amble from the Police Citizen Youth Club in Belmore. حضورنا الكريم، ممثلي المنظمات والجمعيات والاتحادات، ممثلي الإعلام IBC Channel سيد محمد طه، فضائية أشتاب الأستاذ غازي ميخائيل، نرحب بكم مرة أخرى. نلتقي اليوم لنحتفي بإنجاز عراقي آخر سجله هذه المرة أبناؤنا من طلبتنا في الامتحانات العامة الأتشسي، في تقليد آخر كرسه منتدانا إلى جانب الاحتفال باليوم الثقافي العراقي ويوم المرأة العراقي ومهرجان الجواهري والمؤتمر الطبي وغيرها من التقاليد السنوية. نكرم معكم في هذه الأمسية 10 من أصحاب أعلى المعدلات في امتحانات الأتشسي، ولا نشك في أن هناك غيرهم ممن لم نستطع أن نصل إليهم أو وصلتنا أسماءهم متأخرة بعض الشيء. إن ما يميز تكريمنا السنوي أن أبطاله هم عراقيون استراليون من جميع مكونات جاليتنا في هويتها الأعم والأقرب دوما إلى القلب العراقي وفطرته. إن هذا الإنجاز والتفوق إذ يسجل لأصحابه باعتباره علامة على الألمعية الدراسية والعلمية والمثابرة وعلو الطموح، وإذ يسجل لعوائلهم رصيدا لدعمها لهم وتهيئة سبل وأجواء تفوقهم، فإنه يشكل علامة فارقة على نجاحات جاليتنا في الاندماج في هذا المجتمع الأسترالي الواسع والاستعداد للإسهام في كل ما فيه خير هذا البلد الآمن الذي احتضننا جميعا. إننا نرى في إنجازكم الوجه الآخر والحقيقي للعراقي والمهاجر في مواجهة صور التعصب والعنف والتطرف التي تنتشر نمطيتها في أوساط المجتمع الأسترالي. إننا جميعا معنيين بأن يظل البلد الأسترالي وديعا آمنا مزدهرا تنعكس عليه جميع تنعكس علينا جميع أشكال ازدهاره وتقدمه ورقيه. إن ما يقلق المجتمع الأسترالي يقلقنا جميعا. واليوم نرى الأستراليين جميعا ينظرون إلى نزعات التطرف والعنف، وبخاصة بين الشباب، وبخصوصية أكثر القادمين من أوساط إسلامية، ينظرون إليها باعتبارها تهديدا جديا لما نعم به من استقرار وسلام مجتمعي مثالي إلى حد كبير. إننا جميعا ومن كل مكونات جاليتنا معنيين بأن ننأى بأنفسنا عن تلك الصورة النمطية التي تحاول أن تصورنا نحن القادمين من الشرق الأوسط وكأننا متطرفين، وأن العنف هو جزء من ثقافتنا وبيئتنا. إننا ومعنا أبناؤنا معنيون بأن نكون في صف واحد مع سائر الأستراليين في سد الأبواب على كل نزعات العنف والتطرف أيا كانت أوساطها. لهذا كله دعونا نسمع ما يراه شبابنا بهذا الصدد، والرسالة التي يريدون إيصالها إلى الإعلام والمجتمع الأسترالي. أخيرا دعوني أن أتوجه بالشكر لهذه النخبة الرائعة من شبابنا التي تروها أمامكم كبانل، الذين كرسوا الكثير من وقتهم وجهدهم لإنجاز هذا الملتقى الرائع. شكرنا موصول أيضا لأعضاء الهيئة الإدارية الزملاء الدكتورة بشرى العبيدي، حسن الناصري، سميرة علي، دكتور قصي السهيلي، وزينة فضيل، والزميل وليد يوخانس، الذين تبرعوا لتكريم طلبتنا المتفوقين. هذا التكريم الذي للأسف لم تسهم به أي جهة رسمية أو غير رسمية رغم محاولاتنا، فما تروه هو بحدود إمكانيات المنتدى الذاتية وتبرعات أعضاء الهيئة الإدارية مشكورة. Some words in English. We welcome you again. We welcome you all to this tradition of honoring our achievers among HSC students this year. 10 of the top 8 are ranked, and we are quite sure that there are more of them, but unfortunately we couldn't reach them all. While we see this achievement as a sign of the outcome of hard working and brightness of our achievers and their families, we can't underestimate the fact that it is at the same time a sign of a successful integration of these youth into the wide Australian life and society, a sign of the fruitful multiculturalism and the willingness to contribute to Australia's well-being and progress. We as Iraqi community share the same concerns and worries all Australians have, and we have the same interest and intentions in keeping this beautiful country as a peaceful, secure, and tolerant as it's always. We and our youth stand against any stereotyping which try to relate violence and extremism to our society and people and culture, just because a bunch of ignorant, frustrated, brainwashed people are adopting this dangerous and inhumane thinking of extremism and acts of violence with all its ugly features that we saw some of it lately or recently. The achievement we are honoring tonight is the real face of our youth and community. But before we go through honoring them, let us hear the streamline. Let us hear the norm of our youth and their thoughts and ideas on this major issue of violence and extremism. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I would like to introduce our youth for the forum today. Each one will be speaking on different topics related to youth against violence and extremists. First, we have Sarah Yahya, Manar Rasha, Ninwa Yaku, And lucky last, Mina Shakir. Thank you.
So the question is, the strategies to limit negative impact on what's happening in Iraq, on the region, and our youth in Europe. So the first thing that I did is ask all my Iraqi friends, and I said to them, okay, so there's some negative things that's happening in Iraq. How do we think that we can limit those negative impact on you, on us in here in Australia? And they didn't know how to answer it. So they kind of struggled, they stumbled a little bit, and then they said, education. So I said, all right, okay, that's true. All the communities in Iraq, all the Muslim community, whether it's the Mandaean community, whether it was the Christian, Assyrian community, they have to reach out to their people through their social media, to their local newspaper, as well as their local events. They have to raise awareness within their community and ensure to treat them with sensitivity, particularly with newly arrived young Iraqis. Now, this is particularly very important. Now, we know that newly arrived refugees tend to be very, very loud with their traumatic experiences, which is apparently is very understandable. But at the same time, when you feel that the community is moving forward, is limiting the impact of what's happening, they can take us 2 steps back, because all those people who have been very negatively influenced or impacted by what's happening in Iraq, they bring that negativity right here in our soul in Australia. So it makes it very difficult. Now, although there has been a number of communities taking action, namely the Muslim community and the Assyrian community, that's not enough, because the problem remains with engaging the youth with what's happening. So sometimes when you say that education is the answer, that is not sufficient enough. The problem remains, how can you engage those youth in here? So there's many factors that play a role in those delimiting the negative impacts. And the number one that I can think of, and the number one that I can cover in 5 minutes, is the role of the media. Now, the role of the media is very dominant. The unfolding events in Iraq, whether they may be political, social, or religious, are very dominant in the media. This is particularly true when it comes to Western media, which often presents kind of view that says, I told you so, versus it was the right thing to do. Now, you may notice that in the Middle Eastern media, for instance, they present the news, but they sometimes have shows where they are some kind of experiences, what's happening in Iraq, the peaceful region, the supermarkets, and things like that. So sometimes it confuses the young person. What is happening in Iraq? Is it what's the Western media telling me? What is my Middle Eastern media telling me? So that can be very confusing to them. So I can think of an example, the Assyrian and the Christian community. Just recently, back in late last year, there has been, when the terrorist group have taken over their homeland, they went on to organize protests, they went on to organize campaigns, they took their social media and their charity events as well, so they can voice out their concerns for their people. And this means that has resulted in a positive impact. So, they began to be a strong advocate for the community, they began to be very actively involved. So that kind of says that the negative impact of what's happening in Iraq has actually resulted in a positive involvement of the several Iraqi communities in Australia. So, it's saying that you can't really create a positive change unless you are impacted by what's happening. So I'm saying in my whole answer, there is no definite answer or definite strategies or, as I say, how can you limit the negative impact? Because young Iraqis have experienced loss within their own family, either directly or indirectly. The stories of survival of theirs or their families have long-lasting impact on them, because it's a reminder of how they got here and how they have established a life here. For many, the loss is unbearable, whether it's the loss of an individual, homeland, or childhood. For the many years to come, they will always be reminded of the social unrest and violence when they're asked about their nationality. And this can be particularly true when I'm referring to myself. So when somebody asks me, what nationality are you from? And I said, I'm Iraqi. And the first thing that they say, I am very sorry about what's happening. I know there's been some, bad things that's happening. So it's a constant reminder of what's going on. And, they will always be reminded by the history books and the lessons that now dominate the educational curriculum. Their families will always be reading and watching the news and discussing them around the house. Many actually believe that this is a good thing because it pushes them to achieve things and have a sense of gratefulness for being here. So, just in a limit, you can take that negative impact and turn it into something positive, and also that's how things. Kind of, you have to remember that the negative impacts, you have to kind of turn it into something positive. So I think that's I welcome your suggestions, whether it's in education or several ways, but I was thinking in more realistic terms and more like long-term terms. So that's about it. Thank you.
Okay, now we'll have some leading questions that will open up to the floor. The first question is, which aspects of the situation in Iraq and the region are affecting youth most? And for this we have a speaker, Haja Al-Salami.
My name is Haja Al-Salami. I've been a primary school teacher for the past 10 years and am very passionate about working with children. Also, for the past 15 years or so, I've been involved with the Organisation of Human Rights in Iraq Incorporated, supporting refugees and migrants on a very low-key capacity. In recent years, I've been involved in various community initiatives to promote peace and harmony, especially among our youth. So the question that I need to answer today is, what aspects of the situation in Iraq and the region are affecting our youth most? This is a very sensitive topic, as I'm sure all of us today are witnessing the effects the calamity is playing out in Iraq and its region has on our youth. For me, I find that it is a combination of all the problems in Iraq at present: violence, hatred, torture, rape, dehumanization, extortion of minors, human trafficking, terrorizing of people, homes, cities, the loss of innocent lives for no reason other than their bid to live a peaceful life and follow the religion they hold so close and dear to their heart and soul. How can this terror and nightmare, which is actually happening right now in Iraq and surrounding regions, not affect us and our youth here in Australia? For me, it is a feeling of helplessness. We are so far away, yet we feel like it is our family, our neighbours, our friends, associates being killed. And for many, this is the reality. I personally was born and raised here in Australia, but for many Iraqi Australians, it was quite the arduous journey to leave or escape from war-torn Iraq and come to Australia. Many, if not all migrants and refugees, left behind family and friends. So many have lost loved ones, whether during the Gulf War, the fall of the Ba'athist regime, or in recent times with the destructive invasion of the terrorist cults now infiltrating themselves into Iraq. For the most part, Iraqi Australians have shown the true meaning of patriotism and love of one another by banding together to show support of the victims in Iraq and to demand for the terror to stop. Sadly though, as we have seen in the media, many people, and I say many because even one person is too many, have been drawn into the propaganda of these terrorists and have travelled to fight alongside these criminals. Religion may be key to some, but for most of us it is our morals, our ethics and our desire to live a peaceful life that has prohibited us from reacting violently or succumbing to joining these cults and becoming extremists ourselves. Thank you.
Okay, our second question is, how can families help to neutralise and combat negative aspects on the youth? And for this we have Mr. Ahmed Al-Safar to speak.
I will bring that to you, man.
Yes, team.
I'd like to have a small input about the families as a son and as a brother, and most recently as a father and a father figure to some people around my life. I was fortunate enough to grow up in a family back home, but I was born back home in Iraq and I left when I was late teenager. So I was fortunate enough to grow in a family that done their very best to block me from so many negative environment that may allow me to look at people beyond the fact they're human, that are they religious or color background or any religion, nationality. At the same time, they allow me to, they grow into me to deal with people as people, full stop. So are they your friends at school or your neighbors? To the point that my little sister grew up in a family next door to us for her first 6 years of life as they were Christian, to the point that she could not speak Arabic because they were looking after her for so many years, and she started speaking to us at home as a Syrian language. That's how close and we were allowed to mix in together with people around us. That allowed me to withdraw myself from the fact that following the trap, looking at what's happening back home now, and pinpoint what's happening or allow this to be pointed out to a certain people or a certain religion back home. As families, I think we have the obligation to force our kids, not force in a meaning that comes as a force, but allow them to see that we as, just like you guys sitting in a panel, bunch of roses, each one have a different color, different smell, different perfume, but all together we have all one picture, which is back home in Iraq. We as people, we have to teach our kids, okay? What's that happening back at home have only one solution, or basically two solutions, which is forgiveness and love each other there, okay? Because these are the only 2 points that will allow us to overcome all the obstacles back home. I would like to come up with, use Sarah's example earlier, which is the riot that happened about a few months ago. Our Iraqi Christians community, they organized a huge riot, and it was overwhelming, the attendance of there. I went with my wife, and unfortunately there was a handful of Muslim people attending this. Maybe there were a lot of people, but I did not see them. And there's 2 things happening there, which at the same time were overwhelming and kind of disappointing. All the Christian friends, they saw me back there, they start thanking me for me being there. I felt delighted they appreciate me taking my wife and my little daughter with their right, but at the same time, I felt they need to thank me because I have to stand with them. And this is not happening. We have to stand with each other at each of our point, because if the Christian get hurt, I'm going to get hurt. If I'm going to get hurt, everybody else is going to get hurt. So we have to stick together. We have to teach our kids. We have to be as a great example for them. And I think people back home need us, because we're fortunate enough to live in a country like this, okay, to see, express, and learn so many positive things about it. I think we obligated to pass on the message on their behalf. What's happening there, it's not us, okay? It's, as Haji mentioned, a bunch of extremists, okay? They're passing the wrong message, okay? They have a different agenda than anybody else. I hope I covered my point, and thank you very much. I'll give some other people.
Now we have Manar Rasha to talk about strategy to discourage youth from joining extremist elements and feeling that violence is the only way. Thank you, Manar.
Hi everyone, my name is Manar Rasha. A bit about myself. I currently work as a business manager for MTC Australia in our employment service division. MTC is a social enterprise which delivers programs within the community, and some of which are for disadvantaged Australian youth. Tonight, the topic I'll be covering is the strategies to discourage youth from joining extremist elements and feeling that violence is the only way. Before I start, today when I woke up this morning, I was feeling very anxious about coming here and delivering this message. And I was having lunch with my friend, and I was telling him I was feeling really nervous, and he said to me, "Manar, it's not about you." He said it's about getting the message out there about what's happening. And so that's all I'm here to do today, is if I can give you the message, give you the research that I found, conducted by professors, not conducted by Google warriors, but I want to give you information about what I found. So, to that question, or to that topic, I would love to say I have all the answers. I don't. I really don't have the answers. In order for us to create strategies, we first need to try to understand. We need to understand why Australian youth are inclined to join extreme elements. So the first thing I thought I need to find out, are there Australians fighting overseas? I hear about it, but I need to confirm, is that a legitimate claim? So I found a report conducted by ASIO, which is on the screen there. Basically, ASIO said they reported in that report there, and I've got reference to that if anybody wants to talk to me afterwards. ASIO was aware of 60 Australians who were training or fighting in Syria or Iraq. Most of these individuals had gravitated towards the most violent and extreme jihadist groups, including Jabhat, al-Nusra and ISIL. Some of you here tonight might think 60, that's not many. But I personally think one person fighting overseas is enough to cause catastrophic harm. My thoughts might seem over the top, but I don't forget what one young deranged extremist did in Norway when he killed 77 young innocent victims using a handgun and a semi-automatic rifle to conduct the majority of the killings. I mean, we got 2 police officers here with 2 handguns on them. They could easily kill all of us right now. So, but hopefully, Danny, don't kill me. So it obviously it is very serious. It's easy to do. It's not a hard thing. You know, are these 60 Australians fighting overseas a threat to Australia? So let me talk about the 2 that I done research on. 2 of these young men, aged 17 and 18 years old. 17, 18. One of them was both of them were actually suicide bombers. The first one, it was in 2013, killed 35 people in Syria. The second young man killed 3 people and wounded 60 in Iraq. And the rest are more likely, and this is a report done by ASIO, are more likely to be directly involved in murdering civilians of Iraqis. I definitely believe that's a threat to Australia. What do we understand about this behaviour? I'm trying to get somebody to do the slides. So basically, let's look at the age group of people committing the most crimes in Australia. So this is another report I found, Australian crime figures. It's done by the Australian Institute of Criminology. So Australian Institute of Criminology released data in 2013 that persons aged 15 to 19 years had the highest rate of offending in any age group in 2011 and 12. For the past 13 years, the rate of offending had consistently been the highest in 15 to 19 years. So in Australia, we can confirm that 15 to 19 years of age were most likely to commit crimes. So it fits in well with those 2 young men that left here, that grew up here and left to fight overseas. So this brings me to another question. Are young Australians feeling violence is the only way? I mean, in those stats, it did go into detail about the crimes they committed, and most of them were assault. So, are they feeling that violence is the only way? In searching for the answer to this question, I think I'm on the next slide. Yep. So, Professor Michael Zeklin conducted a research and studies he's basically a professor. From Calgary University. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. What was that, sorry? That's it, thank you. So he's from the Military and Strategic Studies at the university, and he conducted studies about Islamic-inspired homegrown terrorists in 3 separate countries. So he studied terrorist plots in Australia, Canada and USA. So obviously he believed that there was commonalities with the way Australia was heading as a superpower, and also with the Canadian and Australian laws. So basically, he covered a lot of plots since 2001, and they're all in the report. So just need to remember where I'm up to. So Professor, in the conclusion, I don't want to take up too much time. Zeklin concluded, while examining Islamic-inspired homegrown terrorists from the Canadian perspective, revealed that while Canada's experience were generally fairly similar to the three countries, something else was occurring beneath the surface. The comparison seemingly revealed greater difference among the three countries than commonalities. So this is what he found. For example, the American plots were more likely to go ahead with the attacks. The Canadians were more likely to be involved in financing terrorists overseas, while Australians were more likely to travel abroad to fight. That's amazing. I was shocked when I read that. Thus, it is possible that Islamic-inspired homegrown terrorists should not be viewed as one overarching phenomenon, but rather than unique to the environment in which it occurs. Can you believe that? Maybe we got a part to play in that? I was shocked. Again, this theory holds that, despite the international jihadist inspiration, domestic factors play a determining role in how Islamic-inspired homegrown terrorism manifests itself in each country. Why are Australians seemingly more willing to travel abroad than Canadians or Americans? So he went to say on that future research is required to determine domestic, social and cultural conditions that might explain this difference. He said maybe it's the multiculturalism policy. Is there a potential disconnect between the perception certain ethnic communities might have and the reality they experience? Is there an anger towards the current country's foreign policy? How much might be a reflection of the individual and their sense of isolation, a lack of self-worth, or simply adventurism and excitement? I'm not sure where the slides are up to. Time, but look, I'm going to conclude quickly because it was very controversial. Basically, I'll get to my conclusion. I was told to shorten it up. So basically, through my research, I can confirm that young Australians, aged 15 and 19, were more likely to commit crimes. Australians were more likely to fight, to leave this country, leave this beautiful country and fight overseas. And also a more different approach is required into taking account that is inspired Islamic homegrown terrorist is not an overarching phenomenon, but rather several ones based on unique experience and circumstances. So I'll shorten this one. Sorry guys, I know they're giving me death looks. What I believe is I consider that some Australians youth feel a lack of belonging, a lack of self-worth and a sense of isolation. We need to have more social support for young people during their adolescent stages of life. One program recently delivered by our organisation consisted of employment-related job searching techniques for early school leavers and currently enrolled students which are newly arrived youth from Middle Eastern background, majority which were Iraqi born. I feel that strategies associated with supporting young Australians to feel a part of, to feel empowered, and to feel that they are understood are keys to develop a safe, dynamic and wealthy nation. Thank you for listening.
Okay, our next set of leading questions that we've got for this topic. The first is, what sources of information do youth rely on? And we have Mr. Laith Naji to speak on this.
I'd like to welcome you all, and lovely to see so many people. My name is Laith Naji and I'm a student at UTS studying Law and International Studies. For this question, what sources of information do youth rely on? I was actually told just last night that I had to answer this question. I thought I was asking this question, so excuse me if I don't know all the facts and figures. So, as a youth myself, I'm going to give this from a subjective perspective. I was born in Australia and raised in Australia, and I don't know all the hardships that so many immigrants have gone through over the years and how everyone has felt. But during my time in school and the people I know in the area where I live, I've examined a lot of youth, and there's a lot of things going wrong with where the youth are getting their information from. Just myself, I know a few people who have been radicalized and have turned to extremism after knowing them as completely normal teenagers. And this is because the information that they are given are either from the media or from their friends. That's what I have concluded. The media, as you all know, gives a very, very biased, subjective point of view, especially on things occurring in the Middle East. So for them to listen to the media, it probably isn't the best thing when something happens, let's say what happened in Martin Place, how every single newspaper and every single source of media was reporting purely on that and reporting incorrect statistics. For example, the Daily Telegraph, how they released the 1 p.m. edition of the ISIL death cult attack with 2 attackers there, which was completely incorrect. And this contributes to what the previous speaker was saying about how youth feel isolated and alienated, and they don't feel a sense of worth in Australian society, and that is perpetuated by the media. As a young person straight out of high school going into uni, I worked 2 jobs, one of them being in Bankstown, a southwestern Sydney suburb, and I do observe a lot of people who spread the messages of violence and extremism, excuse me. So a lot of people, instead of listening to reliable sources from education, from the community, they look towards their friends and people who they're more comfortable with talking about it. And they often rely on information from a single source. As in, for example, a friend of mine, he started going to the Granville Mosque, and he spoke to one imam there, I think, and within a year he was completely changed as a person. And it was honestly such a shock to me when I saw him in the street, and the things that I looked him up on Facebook after, and I saw his profile. He'd gone to sleepovers, and he'd gone to the mosque very often, and he'd gone to actually go out onto the street and encourage others to join his ways. There's a lot of things in southwestern Sydney which promote things of extremism and violence without us knowing. Like, I read about the Muslim Youth Project in Bankstown, which I was very shocked to hear had very extremist overtones to it, and a lot of people who had been part of it I'd been seeing on the street normally. Anyway, I think that's my time, so I hope that was good enough for you. Hope you
Thank you so much. Our second question is, what positive alternatives or community initiatives are available to steer youth away from violence and extremism? And for this we have Ali Al-Musawi from AMI.
A little bit about myself. My name is Ali Al-Musawi, and I'm from a youth organisation that's run by the youth. I'm one of the initial founders. We're called Australian Muslim Youth, otherwise known as AMI. So I'll start by defining the word extremist. So the word extremist refers to a person who holds extreme political or religious views, especially one who advocates illegal violence or other extreme actions. So according to the research I've reviewed, the target population for combating extremism can be classified. Okay, one more thing, I've reread the question a bit, so I'm going to identify what kind of interventions work and what don't, and then I'll speak of the groups that are implementing these interventions in Australia, specifically in Sydney. So the 4 specific areas of intervention include working with young people. We know that's important. We have to work with the people that are at risk. So, and then secondly, working with women. I'll add on to that later. Working with the community and working with the leaders of the communities. So Focus for interventions include capacity building and empowerment, challenging ideology of the people, focus on theology and debate and discussion forums, as well as education and training. So mechanisms for delivery equals outreach programs, which is delivered through a community, embedded individual or an organisation. Multi-agency, which is conducted formally through partnership or informally through collaboration or other corporations. Community consultation, so consulting the leaders or more broad mechanisms of participation for the purpose of consultation. Okay, so what I found was that work with leaders was not sufficient enough on its own to produce a successful outcome in combating violent extremism. However, the review of literature confirms that the work with young people is the most important focus in literature in this area, since it is this group that is felt the most susceptible to becoming attracted to extremism. Work with young people does seem to require high levels of trust and community-led engagement in order to be successful. I'm sure you guys would know. So in this way, it makes sense that the outreach programs work particularly useful, since they target the youth and building trust and whatnot. So personal development and ongoing support for leadership development is a strong element in this field. So, which is related to work to challenge the ideology of the person and focus on the theology and thought of useful of education and training. So education and training, I mean everyone says education and training, but we have to know how to educate these people. So what I found when it comes to education and training, we have to deliver and challenge the ideology and theology of the person. So what's positive is that we have to approach it in a non-prescriptive way. But instead focus on allowing the individual to develop independent thinking and research and leadership skills in order to question and challenge themselves. So previously, brother said a guy went to the mosque and spoke to the imam. I mean, he went to the wrong mosque and the imam has probably got his own agenda, but that is not Islam, as far as I know. I'm a practicing Muslim, I usually go to the mosque all the time, and I get taught to think critically and think for myself and do my own research. And so what this is saying here is a study done by the UK, professors in the UK, and it is a systematic review, which means it reviews a lot of studies. The studies reviewed in this were over 70, I'm not sure the exact number, but there's a lot of studies that were conducted about this. So what I'm trying to say here is we need to teach the youth how to think critically for themselves, do their own research, so when someone comes and gives them a wrong ideology, like in your region, for example, it says you have to do this, you have to kill the infidels and whatnot. So that person needs to go do his own research and see if it adds up to what he's being taught. Because many times they've been taught the wrong thing that has no basis, or it's a very weak basis. So I'll just finish up here. So these interventions with young people were generally delivered through a mix of multi-agency, working and or like with outreach programs. The focus on outreach for this should be focused on maintaining trusting relationships and relationships between community hubs and partners. So to summarize, there already exists a variety of groups and organisations that target the youth in implementing some previously mentioned interventions. We've got AYC, which stands for Al-Mahdi Youth Committee, which is a youth-led non-government organisation that runs educational activity-filled youth camps, which is targeted at bringing the youth together. This youth committee is by far one of the most multicultural committees I've come across, one of the most multicultural committees I've come across in my research. Its members are made up of a variety of backgrounds, most of which are third world or war-torn countries. So they are coming from countries that are affected by this. Okay, almost finished. Another organisation which targets the youth is the organisation that I'm from, Australian Muslim Youth. We're also a non-profit organisation. So what we do is we're made up of a mixture of Iraqi and Lebanese people, so it's not exclusive to Iraqis, and we're not exclusive to Muslims as well. Although it's run by Muslims, we have sometimes people coming on board from other backgrounds. What we do is that we go take the youth out to meet the Australians, especially the homeless. So at the same time they're helping people, so they're feeling rewarded. And so what we do is we do projects that feed the homeless, and we sit and speak to the homeless, because we found out that the homeless aren't after food, but they're after companionship. So we give them that, and many people are enjoying it. They bring their friends on board, and so that, and a lot of people have become friends from that. So we're trying to get people with the right mindset to befriend people that may go astray. And there's another group I should mention. It runs similar projects, which is the Assyrian Chaldean Syriac Youth Alliance, and some of the members are here. So they run similar groups, and all these youth groups focus on creating a fun environment for youth to play, interact with others of the same age, and at the same time taking home a religious and cultural lesson. Okay, thank you very much.